Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm still curious about the direction I was asking before, like, do you, in the sort of like the guidelines you were describing of like be open-minded to engaging the logical rules that someone is following, don't just sort of reject, right, like that those. That also requires imposing the belief that those are a reasonable way to have a discussion onto the other people in the group, in some sense. How do you get around that? Do you get around it? Like,
That's rough. That's a tough question. I don't know. I don't, that would be quite a big barrier, right? I mean, can you think of, I don't know, have you ways of seeing how that question could be answered?
no, but what? Sort of.
Are you seeing it more as a criticism or like a difficulty of implementing it or whatever? Yeah.
Like fully just, I'm interested.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's the question that somebody asked earlier, where she was like, couldn't a lot of these. At some point, there's some universals about humanity that you can take for granted. So I was thinking of that comment, and then I was also thinking about somebody else on that side group had brought up, like, when it comes, like, I've done a little bit of research on like conspiracy theories type stuff. And one of the things that comes up is that it's not that a full somebody who's really gone down the rabbit hole of like QAnon, it's not that they're not being logical. The connections that they're following are different. They're following different logical rules, right? And in some ways it kind of.
Maybe not. They could be perfectly classical or bad and just have the wrong content.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking
could
of
be.
like some, not in general, not all people, right? And I'm thinking of some people where the logic that they teach themselves to follow in that style of argumentation is much more like associative. Like just finding connections between groups becomes a very compelling piece of evidence, right? These two people are in the same room at this time. That's very convincing to you, suddenly, about a lot of things, right? So I'm curious, like, when there's how you would have like a constructive argument or like a constructive discussion when you do want to criticize me, or maybe you don't, I don't know, just you potentially want to criticize the logical rules that are underpinning or the rules that somebody's using to get from one thing to another. I was just thinking, that was what I was thinking about.
It's deep thinking. Honestly, it's not easy. I'm a bit stunned because those are serious problems. Yeah.
Katharina, do you want to comment on this?
Yes, I do, because actually I have a chapter on conspiracy theories in my book. And I
I
also
thought,
recently
so go
wrote,
ahead.
yeah, exactly. And I also recently wrote a paper with a co-author on the rhetoric of conspiracy theories, also conspiratorial discourse. And I just want to kind of support the point that somebody in the audience was making, that it's not that the internal logic of conspiratorial thinking is per se illogical. It has its own logic, right? Which doesn't mean that there are no kind of epistemic flaws in the overall thinking. But yeah, I mean that's just also this kind of like this very arrogant attitude, right? It has to do a lot with this idea. Well, if they just knew better, they wouldn't think about it in this way. Their epistemic vices and stuff. And I really resist that kind of an approach, while not also, that's also something that came out in my talk. I'm not saying therefore we should all embrace conspiratorial thinking and kind of, with respect to vaccines, which was the example I was describing, it's very important that people get vaccinated. I'm not saying people should
I'm
not
very
be
sorry
getting
we
vaccinated.
lost you there.
Just missed you, we just miss you, Katerina. Is it
Oh,
for you to
Zoom crashed.
repeat your comment? We're so sorry.
I am sorry. I'm really sorry about this. Anyways, long story short, just to say that there is like an internal logic to often to conspiratorial thinking, but that, acknowledging
Oh, no.
some of it is also quite dangerous. So it's still a problem that needs to be dealt with. I hope you could hear that.
Barely, but we heard. Thank you.
Yeah, we heard you.
I think Patrick was answering the question.
Sorry. Okay.
No problem, no problem.
Your
We're
fault, it's okay.
hearing you.
Yeah, so what I was saying is there's the spectrum where there's like fundamental needs that we all need to fulfill, that we all share that.
Uh-huh.
Like the sort of necessary ways of thinking, that's the reason and that's the logic, and it's there that can be exceedingly oppressive if in a Kantian way where you think, oh, it's basically my way of doing math and science is the universal necessary way for any kind of rational being to think. That's very cocky at best.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's all right. I don't even.
No problem. Go ahead.
Example. The person I'm speaking with is making logical inferences that are not, in my viewpoint, logical. So
Yeah.
his framework is completely alien to mine,
Yeah.
and he's drawing conclusions, and I'm drawing different conclusions.
Right.
Is-
And he's convinced that his inference is right.
is
It's
this-
correct. Okay.
Therefore, I cannot bridge, I cannot with my framework bridge
Yeah.
those differences.
Yeah.
It's not, is this not ever consistent? Is this not? Is it-
Could be modeled with para-consistency, but is it by nature para-consistent? I would say no, but it could be modeled by para-consistency.
Or just pluralism about logic and pluralism about logic or nihilism about logic that neither are especially right. I mean, I understand what classical logicians do. I don't believe in classical logic, but I understand what's going on. I played the
Yeah.
game, I published in it. When I do stuff that requires classical mathematics, I use classical logic and I'm happy to do that. And, priests understand dialectism, even though he understands it from a classical mathematical point of view. So there's ways to understand each other without agreeing.
Yes, but in that
Exactly.
scenario, the inferences I cannot understand.
No, it's
But
not
then
that
it's
you cannot
inconsistent.
understand. You understand, but you don't agree with the conclusion.
If
I
you
mean,
really can't understand them, they're incoherent, probably.
Yeah. But one basic thing with logic is that these days we know that there are many different logics that have been developed by logicians. And this way we can recognize in an argument that this person is using, I would say, a probabilistic logic, like the example that gave Maxime and John this morning. And this other one uses a modal logic in its inferences. And
Logic of beliefs versus logic of.
right. And logic is the science by which we study the different types of argumentation.
Sure.
And we can recognize in the conversation that some persons uses this type of logic and the other one uses the other type of logic. So this way, logic is a good tool for the modeling of different ways of reasoning. And you can, I would say that the logician, being a specialist of argumentation, he has good tools to understand what the other means and why he gets a conclusion rather than to another one. But it's not the same as the question of the agreement. I mean, you could say he reasons with modal logic in this context. presented this afternoon. I mean, to recognize the competence of someone, to recognize that the person is reasoning and argumenting correctly is something, and being trustworthy is something else, because it depends on your estimation of the benevolence. I like this distinction between trustworthiness and recognition of competence.
So how about the kind of stuff that you talked about, where you're talking about like people affirming the consequent with Wyson?
Yeah.
But it's not recognizing that they're reasoning coherently, is it?
No, I would say it's recognizing that they're not using logic,
Right.
but that they do something that is cognitively relevant because they're looking for causality. Human beings,
Cognitively unjust, not to. It's not a question. I mean,
it's
it's just to say that they're making a logical mistake.
exactly. They make a logical mistake, and from the other side of the mirror, we could say, well, they're just trying to understand the world they live in. They're trying to find causality, and that's the way I would say it is.
I
But
get
they
it.
don't make that mistake in the real world. That's what's interesting.
Yeah. And there's a relation between this theory of abduction about causality and conspiracy theories, because at the end of my talk yesterday, I said that there's a form of S1 reasoning that is more dogmatic and another one that is more flexible. And the one that is dogmatic is the one that works actively not to recognize the counterexamples to our causal hypotheses. That is, I see the effect without the cause, or the cause without the effect, and I cannot accept it. And I would say conspiracy theories are a perfect tool for doing that. I mean, the conspiracists have a good tool not to change, not to learn, and to stick to their guns, to their moral and political positions. For example, when a Democrat says to a Republican, well, your president is an enemy of mankind. And he said, no, that's not true. And when it's the Democrats that have a conspiracy that tries to tell us that our president is not a good president. And conspiracy theories is a good tool to avoid the correction of abductions. That was my conclusion yesterday.
Katerina, can we trust someone even if we know they're thinking in a non-logical way?
Yeah, I think that's, that's not it. Trust doesn't require like perfect alignment of reasoning styles.
Yeah, sure.
I-
Okay,
I
all
would
right.
say that's
I-
fine, right? So
I agree too.
I guess I can see why you would think maybe not, but I think, I'm kind of like, I guess, a pluralist also, logical pluralist. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, maybe I reason one way and somebody else reasons some other way, but I still, the outcome
okay,
is
good.
still something I can rely on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you also study like excessive trust or misguided trust or something like that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the examples I gave was exactly that, right? Where the model,
yeah,
they
okay,
started
yeah,
trusting the online people too much.
Yeah.
Right? That's exactly, it's like, because also trust is contrastive, right? So you trust somebody more and then somebody less. So there's always like, it's relational, right? So what happened there, that there was this flipping. First, there was more trust in kind of like the official healthcare providers, and that kind of flipped, as it were. And it's always relational. So trusting somebody more always means that somebody else is going to be trusted less as a result.
Yeah. And this could be fed by conspiracy theories, I would say.
Absolutely. Not only could, it really is. I mean, this is this is the kind of one of the main strategies of what in the literature is called conspiracy entrepreneurs, people who make a business out of getting people to believe conspiracy theories, or even somebody like Donald Trump. The perfect, like the most kind of efficient way is just to say, don't trust those people. Remember what he was talking about? What is it, like everything is fake news, everything he didn't like, oh, it's fake news. These people are not to be, they can't be trusted. So that's like the easiest way, in fact, to spread certain ideas is to discredit alternative sources, like the other sources.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a question from Janie online. So Janie Brisson says, what non-classical operator would you like to see investigated more in the psychology of reasoning field? I think this is for everybody.
Logical operator.
Yes, non-classical operator.
I would say most of them, Jenny, are interesting. Not being classical, especially not relying on the double negation and not relying on the third excluded third value. I would say most of them are more flexible. They're all more flexible than classical logic. As I said this morning, if you take, for example, probabilistic logic, well, classical logic is the simplest of the probabilistic logics, the one that has only two truth values. And the same with fuzzy logic. I mean, classical logic is the simplest standard fuzzy logic. But when you go in fuzzy logic, and when you go in non-standard fuzzy logic, and when you go to probabilistic fuzzy logic and modelize these logics, you're more and more open to flexibility and to diversity and to the possibility of understanding events and representations that are different from yours. So I would say there's a huge link between, I would say, training in non-classical logics and, I would say, moral and political openness. I go as far as that.
Trust. I'd like to see trust being
Yeah, there's really important links with trust.
investigated logically.
Yeah, sure.
Well, but I mean, there's some work. It's not exactly like work in logic, but there's this work on like strong ties, you know, in the kind of sociology that uses network theory. So people that look at like strong ties, weak ties. So it's that kind of stuff is also already being done. So if that's what you want, Patrick, you know, you can look into that. A bit of like the stuff on formal epistemology as well. So
Yeah, good, yeah.
and my answer to the question would be that you know, to take more seriously the fact that reasoning outside of very specific niches of experts is completely non-monotonic, right? So it's kind of, it's defeasible.
yeah.
You draw some conclusions on the basis of the information you have, but then new information comes in and then you retract your previous conclusion. You know, that's exactly how things actually work. And it's a very strange feature of classical logic, right? The principle of monotonicity. Like, you know, if you've drawn this conclusion before, you're stuck with it. You can never let it go. So that's bad.
I'd be keen to see I don't know if it's a logical operator as much as a logical analysis of relational stuff where relations are primitive instead of like being reduced to sets of ordered pairs. But you know, these relational ontologies, like what does it mean to have relations as primitive? I have no idea how that can be done, and that could be fun to investigate for sure.
Of course.
That was gonna be my question. What is gonna be the operator for trust and the double negative that you were speaking of would
Yeah.
be interesting in trust?
Yeah,
True.
like,
Because the negative doesn't necessarily imply that
Exactly.
trust has been reestablished, and to what degree, that would be.
yeah. I don't agree with the fact that we should not trust the person. Does that mean that I trust the person?
Or
It's interesting.
I don't trust myself for not trusting you.
that happens. Or the reverse, it happens.
We have another question.
Are there weak fuzzy negations in the process of trust? Very interesting. I'm going to sleep on that.
Of common ground in last week's presentations.
Yeah, sure. You have a question on the web.
A question from Ludovic for Patrick.
You want to show it on the screen?
Oh, yes, I can show it.
One for you, Patrick.
Oh, no, actually, because we just went back to the.
That's all right. I'll be back.
I can copy
You
it.
can read it.
Just read
I
it.
will read it and then copy it from the chat so you can read it.
It's all right.
How do you view extensive use of Occidental's data for AI learning, in which the epistemological links it builds on will be impacted by Occidental beliefs? For example, generating an image of a doctor will be a prestigious white man.
Sure.
Think about
No, the way AI is progressing is just like increasing imperialism and colonialism to a certain extent. Like AI is colonizing the whole world by creating its own parallel world to which we're sort of, and it's extracting resources by extracting all the information on the internet and then creating a world on top of ours, and presumably that world will be dominated by what was extracted, and it's mostly European, so it's just furthering it, it's just increasing it.
Yeah.
From the start, I had a
So I have
professor
a
that
book
told us.
recommendation, sorry.
Oh, yeah?
It's okay, go ahead.
No, I just had a book recommendation. So yeah, a book recommendation on what Patrick was just saying. It's called Data Grab.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking, yep.
Colonialism. Yeah.
That's the one you were
Can
talking
you
about.
write it in the chat?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Katerina. Data Grab. I can't remember who the author is, so.
Data grab.
Let me look it up. Data Grab. It's two authors. So it's called Data Grab, the New Colonialism of Big Tech and How to Fight Back,
Okay.
by Ulysses Mayas and Nick Caldry.
I think the How to Fight Back was imposed by
Put
the
on the
editor
chat.
because they don't have much to say.
Well,
Thank you for the link.
yeah, and thank you
No,
for the
that's
reference.
how it is, right? These things, yeah.
Thank you.
But I was saying that I have a professor, ethics professor, that showed us a few years ago how AI machines or models were already being causing harm to animals. For example, if we are ecological and if we want to view all non-human animals as equal, and the pigs and the chickens that we eat, we have to see them as worthy of being alive. But since we do not in our current Occidental society, even the AI knows that a pig is unworthy and that a dog is worthy. So it is already, and there is faire la morale aux robots. So it's like how to
Yeah.
make the robots more moral. That is also a great book about that. I will write it in the chat. It's about it's about the animal perspective though, but
Yeah.
bioethics and all the harm that AI can be causing
To animals.
and to our own view and perception of the world.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. That address the question?
Oh.
No?
Yes, Yasmin. Yeah, question by Yasmin.
From my previous research during my master at UQAM, was I tried to generate fake dialogues that trying to exhibit team dynamics as illustrated by Patrick Larsson in his dysfunctional teams book. One of the dimensions was the trust, not trust or trust. So the results, once I tried to do kind of classification using 4 different machine learning models, the lowest score that I wrote is with regard to the trust, because I'm assuming that trust is very hard to let the machine interpret in terms of just 3 categories, because each dysfunction have 3 level scores, low, medium, high. And that comes to the point that you say now that categories should be implemented by fuzzy logic. It's not like the just low, medium, high scores.
Yeah.
So my results comes to the same conclusion as we presented in the early one today, once you say like categories function better with fuzzy logic instead of just using probability, because I have used the probabilistic models.
Yeah, of course. Well, the problem is that our perception of the world is such that this world is full of, I would say, different situations, and objects have different properties to different degrees. And this way, fuzzy logic is a much more flexible tool to take into account all the differences that we see in our environment. That's one of the ideas that I was trying to develop and demonstrate this morning.
It's comes to my mind from yesterday's session, which is about not deduction, not induction. It's about the third type of inference, which is abduction. Because abduction talks about how the human brain thinks about other dimensions, other perspectives, and I think it is best with the abduction.
Of course, there's a link, yeah, with trust. Yeah, of course. Much of our trust in others is the trust in their beliefs and our beliefs about causal realities, how events are related one to the other. And this way, I have beliefs about causality. You have beliefs about causality, and much of our discussions and argumentations are about comparing our causal chains. And I would say trust becomes an important dimension of the interaction. I mean, you trust the one who believe in the same causal chains as you and you have difficulties to trust people who see the causal chains differently from the way you see them. That's really something important. I would say that Katerina today introducing the concept of trust in our discussions, introducing something important.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Katerina.
I think there are two types of discussions. You just inferred one type where you seek confirmation of the causal chain, which in English we'd say birds of a feather flock together.
Uh-huh.
But I think there's another type of individual that engages in a conversation with a person that sees different types of causal relations and seeks to learn.
Of course, of course.
So they're individual and they both need to be.
Of course, I would say, for example, in S2, actively open-minded thinking that Stanovich and Toplak talk about, it's exactly the perspective. I mean, I discuss with the other, not to try to convince the other that I have the good causal chains, but to try to complexify my causal chains and to learn from the other. Yasmin, I discuss with you because there's something that I don't understand. There are causal links that I don't have, and I presume that you have them in your mind. Of course.
Abduction.
Yeah.
A third variable.
Exactly.
Katarina has something to say also.
Once you know the perspective dimension, you can find the best solution to deal with computer science.
Yeah.
So you have to understand cognitive.
Of course.
Then you can map it with the correct, let's say, computer science dimension.
Exactly.
Of course, working in parallel and in the same.
Yeah. And this is why we have this doctorate in cognitive computer science. And this is why we have these interdisciplinary summer schools in which cognitive scientists meet with computer scientists. Next week will be the week for the computer scientists in the summer school, as you know.
Katarina raised her hand.
Oh, go ahead, Katarina.
Of course.
Question,
Yes.
I think.
No, I
Not
just
easy
want
to-
to say, yeah, no, it's okay, but it's almost 10:30 here and I have to wake up early tomorrow. So with my apologies, I think I'm just gonna call it
Oh,
a
no.
day. I want to say that I will be in Montreal next year in October. So finally, at least I'll be there in person, so we can talk more about this, Serge, and other topics. And I very much hope that Patrick, you and I can also cross paths at some point soon, because we're
Yeah.
thinking about very kind of similar questions. So
You wanna
I'm
stop in
thank
New
you
Zealand on your way
everybody
to
for just bearing
Montreal?
with me in my bed. Yeah, why not, right? Just around the globe, sure.
I would come and see us
Thank
anyway.
you
Let's be in touch.
for giving me
I'm
this
keen to read your book.
opportunity.
I'll be in touch for sure.
Yeah, well, Katerina, it's the
Okay.
end of
Thank you,
the
everybody.
afternoon of the session for us now. So you're closing the computer is just fine with us because we're ending today's session. And I want to thank you so much. I know you were very busy.
Okay.
You had these meetings in Paris. And thank you so much for being with us. And as I said a few minutes ago, thank you for introducing the idea of trustworthiness, which is very important. That was not that obvious in our discussions and our presentations up to this afternoon. And I hope you will
Thank you.
come to
Well, I can only
Montreal.
say, I will be there soon. Yes.
Excellent, excellent, Katerina,
I
and
will.
you'll be welcome
And also,
in
let me just,
Montreal.
of course, I cannot avoid the pun. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for trusting me and giving me this platform. Sorry, bad joke.
Thanks to you. So
Good
see
night,
you soon
everybody.
in Montreal. Take care. Bye-bye. So I think it would be nice to end the session with these beautiful words by Katerina. And thanks to Patrick and to Steph and our two French colleagues, Maxime and John, who could not be here now. And of course, it's late in Europe right now. So tomorrow will be the day chaired by Otalia Larue and